All week we've been building a picture of how your cat's nervous system works. The threat assessment model, the attachment system, the HPA axis, the regulatory mechanisms. Today, we put it into practice. But before we get to the 7 actions, there's a distinction worth making that most cat owners miss. There are 2 fundamentally different categories of positive interaction with your cat. The first is enjoyment inputs, things your cat experiences as pleasant in the moment, treats, certain types of play, being petted in the right way at the right time. The second is safety inputs, specific behaviors that change how your cat's threat model registers you at a structural level. The difference matters because the threat model is what determines the baseline activation level of your cat's nervous system in your presence. A lower baseline means a more relaxed, accessible, confident cat. A higher baseline means a cat who is more guarded, who maintains more physical distance, who is less able to fully engage with the relationship. Enjoyment inputs don't change the baseline. They add pleasant data points, but they don't address the threat model directly. This is why some cats who receive constant treats and extensive petting still seem distant or guarded. The enjoyment inputs are present. The safety inputs are missing. Safety inputs are behavioral patterns that the nervous system reads as evidence that you are predictable, non-threatening, and responsive to the cat's communication. Each one works through a specific channel. Here are 7 of them. The first is the finger greeting. Whenever you're about to initiate an interaction with your cat, especially at the start of contact after a period of separation, extend one finger toward their nose at their height and wait. Let them approach and sniff. Sometimes they'll rub their cheek against your finger, depositing a scent marker. That's the confirmation that the identification is complete and contact is welcome. The mechanism, you're providing the olfactory confirmation step before anything else happens. Cats navigate primarily through scent. By offering your scent signature at nose level before initiating any physical contact, you're allowing the olfactory identification system to run its verification before the interaction begins. The nervous system experiences this as identification confirmed, approaching individual known and safe. Contact initiating with permission. The contrast is reaching directly for your cat without this step. Contact arriving before identification is confirmed, which the nervous system registers as surprise regardless of how familiar you actually are. Over time, the finger greeting builds a consistent pattern that physical contact is always preceded by scent confirmation. That pattern reduces the startle component from every interaction. The second is the soft voice register. The University of Paris research we covered earlier this week established that cats show owner recognition specifically in response to the higher-pitched, softer register, what researchers call cat-directed speech. In normal adult register, the acoustic response is not significantly different from response to a stranger. The practical application is deliberate. When you speak to your cat, address them directly or narrate what you're doing in their presence. Use that register consistently. The specific words are irrelevant. The frequency and tone are what activate the acoustic recognition channel. You're signaling to the nervous system this is the voice of the specific individual whose communication register is reserved for you. Over time, your cat-directed speech becomes a reliable identity signal. Hearing it at any time when you enter a room, when you approach in the dark, when you speak from another space, activates recognition before any other cue is processed. The third is scent introduction before touch. Whenever your hand approaches your cat, it arrives from a direction they may not have been monitoring. Even a completely familiar hand, arriving at an angle outside the cat's current visual or olfactory focus, can produce a brief startle response, a micro-activation of the threat system. The fix is simple. Move your hand slowly and visibly into the cat's field before making contact. Not dramatically slowly, just with enough deliberateness that they can track the approach and orient to it. Extend toward their nose level. Let them make the choice to move forward or stay still. This shift from contact that happens to the cat to contact the cat participates in changes what the nervous system registers. Surprise activates the threat channel. Consent activates a completely different channel. Over hundreds of repeated interactions, the pattern of consented contact versus unconsented contact builds a different representation of what physical contact with you means. The fourth is responding to greetings. When your cat meets you at the door with tail raised, they're initiating a social ritual that carries neurological stakes. We've covered this multiple times this week. Every time you stop, acknowledge, and respond, a soft word, a slow blink, lowering your body to their level for a moment, you deposit into the trust account. Every time you walk past without responding, you withdraw. The investment is literally 3 seconds per occurrence. The return, across hundreds of arrivals home over months, is a cat who greets you with increasing confidence, who maintains lower baseline activation in the moments after your arrival, and who has a broader behavioral range available in your presence because less of their processing is dedicated to running threat assessment on you. The fifth is the slow blink exchange. This is the most direct bilateral nervous system regulation tool you have. Find 1 moment per day, morning, evening, doesn't matter, when your cat is relaxed and you have soft eye contact available. Soft gaze, slow, deliberate close. Soft aftermath. Wait. When they return it, the cortisol exchange has completed on both sides. What makes this different from the other actions is that it operates in real time, on both nervous systems simultaneously. The other 6 actions build patterns over time. The slow blink exchange produces a measurable regulatory effect in the moment it happens. Daily, it compounds. The 6th is the mealtime boundary. Complete withdrawal during feeding. Leave the room or stay at enough distance that you are not a presence the cat needs to monitor. No talking, no touching, no approaching the bowl. What this accomplishes, you remove yourself from the vulnerability equation at the moment your cat is most neurologically exposed. Every meal where this pattern holds deposits data into the threat model. During feeding, this individual is not a source of activation. Over months, mealtime becomes neurologically associated with complete safety in your presence. That's a significant shift in baseline activation because feeding happens multiple times daily. The 7th is predictable movement. How you move through the physical space your cat occupies matters as much as what you do in interactions. Fast, unpredictable movements, sudden direction changes, rapid approaches, unexpected appearances in doorways, activate the motion detection system in your cat's visual cortex. The system evolved to detect fast-moving threats. It doesn't suspend operation because the fast-moving object is familiar. Moving more deliberately in your cat's space, slowing your pace when you're near them, telegraphing your movements, avoiding sudden pivots or rapid approaches, allows the motion detection system to catalog your movement signature as known and non-threatening. The more consistently your movement pattern matches the stored model of safe, familiar individual, the lower the processing cost you generate every time you move through the space. Now the last point, which is the one that ties all 7 together. Consistency matters more than intensity. This is counterintuitive because human intuition tends toward gestures, a particularly warm interaction, a long session of affection, an especially engaged play session. These feel like they should make a larger impact than small daily habits. For enjoyment, they do. For the threat model, they don't. The threat model is updated by patterns, not by individual events. A single extraordinary interaction produces a data point. A consistent pattern produces a parameter change in the model itself. The nervous system is asking, what is the reliable, predictable behavior of this individual? That question is answered by repetition, not by peaks. This is also why the occasional rule violation matters less than owners often fear. Missing a greeting one day doesn't undo months of consistent greeting response. Reaching without scent introduction once doesn't erase the pattern of scent introduction. The model is robust to occasional deviations once a consistent pattern is established. What the model cannot accommodate is a pattern that is itself inconsistent, where the behavior varies unpredictably. That unpredictability is itself what the threat model flags. Here's what this video is actually about. 7 actions, each with a mechanism, each requiring less than a minute of attention per day. Together, applied consistently, they change the structural representation of who you are in your cat's nervous system, not from person I like to person I like more, but from known individual with some unpredictable elements to known individual whose behavior is cataloged and reliably safe. That shift changes the baseline, and a changed baseline changes everything that's possible in the relationship. One more thing worth naming explicitly. What changed baseline actually looks like in practice, because it's not always obvious when it's happening. The first indicator is sleep location movement. A cat who has been sleeping at the foot of the bed or in another room starts moving closer, not because you did something dramatic. Because the accumulated pattern of safety inputs has shifted the threat model enough that closer proximity during maximum vulnerability becomes the rational choice. The second indicator is greeting initiation rate. Your cat starts meeting you at the door more consistently, more confidently. The tail is higher, the approach is more direct, the pause and assess phase is shorter. The greeting ritual has been reinforced often enough that the nervous system initiates it without the hedging that characterized earlier interactions. The third indicator is contact duration. When your cat does seek physical contact, the sessions last longer before they disengage. The threshold for overstimulation increases, not because you've changed how you pet, but because the overall baseline activation level has dropped, and lower baseline means higher available threshold. The same tactile input that would have crossed the line 6 weeks ago now falls within comfortable range. The fourth indicator is exploration in your presence. Cats with lower baseline activation explore more freely when their person is nearby. They use you as a secure base, moving away to investigate, returning, moving away again. The same pattern the Oregon State Attachment Study measured in securely attached cats. Your presence becomes an anchor for confident environmental engagement rather than a source of monitoring load. None of these changes are dramatic. They happen gradually, over weeks. The accumulation is what makes them real. Tonight we look at why your cat takes your seat the moment you leave, and why the mechanism, once understood, makes the behavior completely legible.